Okay, you just tell us when you're ready. Oh.
Union of the Unknowns, a podcast dedicated to the exploration of modern culture, presents a weekly digest of current events that may have slipped past your radar. This is not your mama's news.
Oh, shit. Oh, shit.
I was going to say, let it run again. I like
that damn default loop.
All righty. We are officially live and in the house. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. I am Ashley. We are here for Not Your Mama's News, news from the clown world of today that matters to you, but not your mama. And with us, ladies first, Stella Q, how are you?
Or just Stella Q first. I'm very good, thank you. Always good to be here and very, very happy to have our expanded group.
Yes, absolutely. And I was going to say, to return with us, the prodigal, Terry Canary. Hello, Terry. We're happy to have you back with us. How are you?
It's great to be back in the Not Your Mama's News virtual studio. Thank you, Ashley.
Absolutely. And with us, you know him, you love him, you've begged for him. It's America's sweetheart. It's Justin the Ism Can. How are you, Justin?
Howdy, folks. I was going to say something different, but then I'd probably need to get myself a censor button to save our editor from some... Never mind. How's everyone doing tonight?
Good, thank you.
Good. So my understanding is that I am the only person here with a bit of a black pill. However, I think it's an important black pill. On the heels of our recent release of the Union of the Unknowns episode that we did with Chuck Ocelli, who was known as the blind JFK researcher who has dedicated his life and career to researching the JFK assassination, I wanted to bring that to everyone's attention, but I also wanted to say that we are coming up on the 60-year anniversary of the JFK assassination happening in 2 days, 11/22/63, a day that changed the world. And from Chuck's opinion, if you refer to our episode, he believes that one of the major reasons that JFK was assassinated was due to his desire to withdraw the United States from the Vietnam conflict. So that's something that I wanted to touch base in with you guys. And I know that Terry has an interest in JFK as well. So I wanted to bring that to the fore here.
Yes, I was very upset I missed out on the JFK episode. It's one of my little obsessions. I agree with that assessment that it was probably largely to do with his wish to withdraw from the Vietnam War. Although there's some other theories that knock about that he wanted to do something about the Fed and the currency problem. I'm not sure I believe that. And a lot of people talk about an Israeli connection as well, because there's some connection with the Israeli nuclear program that JFK might have been trying to interfere with. But I think the most likely one was a simple one that the CIA were obviously pissed off with him about Bay of Pigs, that he hadn't given them support for the invasion of Cuba. And from there on, it was all downhill, really. I think his days were numbered. So, yeah, very sad. Maybe not as black pill as it used to be. We've had 60 years to get over it. But to my mind, it's one of the first big events where people stop trusting the government, really, because the official story is so ludicrously unbelievable that I think even the normiest of normies back then started to think, well, there's something wrong about this.
Yeah, it may have been 60 years ago, but hashtag never forget.
Well,
Definitely.
It's funny you say that, because over 60 years, a whole lot of boomers have done a whole lot of mental gymnastics to, okay, well, even if George H.W. Bush, as head of the CIA, did have him murdered. Surely they'd never do that again.
Yeah, and I did want to bring that point that yes, and there's a book written by Russ Baker who's talking basically an in-depth analysis of the Bush family, and he does say and I'm getting ready to bring this up that Sir Tim of the Tunnels, gentleman skeptic, is saying here about the George H.W. Bush connection, and I actually asked Chuck about that. So he didn't necessarily think that H.W. Bush was involved in the way that some of us are thinking. I think it's an interesting point, though. And the other point that I wanted to make about it was that some people think that it has to do with the mob because the mob, they were kind of involved with them, that the mob helped them to get elected. But I had a thought on this today. If that's truly the case, then why would the documents still be classified? Right? Wouldn't they be happy to throw the mob under the bus and just say, oh, yeah, it was the mob? But instead, we still have classified documents 60 years later. And then the other point that I thought about was I believe the CIA utilized this event to coin the term conspiracy theory in order to silence and marginalize dissent from the standard narrative. So it was very important. It wasn't the first PSYOP, but it was the first assassination of a president, and it was definitely leveling up, in my opinion.
Silence of the Lambs sort of immediately comes to mind there. It's almost like the beginning of people questioning, with, for want of a better term, the sheep questioning.
Yeah, that's a really good point. So, gentleman skeptic Sir Tim here says, unless you were George H.W. Bush, if you were cognizant in 1963, you remember where you were. I wonder if they are going to refresh that trauma. I think that is a really good point.
I was going to make that point. There are at least three either presidents or future presidents present in Dallas on that day. Nixon was there. Kennedy was there, obviously, and George H.W. Bush was there, but he doesn't remember where he was, apparently. Everyone else remembers where they were on the time of the assassination. He says, I was in Dallas, can't quite remember where I was. So that's very fishy in itself. Going back to your earlier point, I think the mob were definitely involved. The CIA and the mob had been working together since the Second World War.
100%.
Very closely. So I think that it needed a lot of factions to come together. Probably Hoover, the head of the FBI, was somehow involved. Maybe Lyndon Johnson. A lot of people suspect that he had some involvement because he was a very shady character. And, I think it needed a lot of different people to working together to pull this off. And the CIA may have just used the mob as the hitmen and then covered their tracks. So that gave them some distance from the act.
That's also a really good point and very interesting. And I wanted to point out, too, that Chuck O'Celli was recently at a conference in Dallas this past weekend. And he also ended up having a several hours interview with Coast to Coast AM radio. So I just wanted to point people to Chuck's work because there are some disagreements even within the JFK research community about what happened, who did it, and things like that. So I started listening to the first episode or the first hour, and he was discussing the Secret Service agent who was protecting Jackie that day. And essentially saying at best, he thought he was misremembering. At worst, he thought that he was maybe just trying to benefit himself from that situation and that he wasn't necessarily telling the whole truth. So it's really wild to me how little we know, even after all this time, but how fascinated people continue to be with the subject 60 years later and how impactful that was. And even Stephen King wrote the fictional book 11/22/63. And of course he had the normie take, but he also said that ultimately he believed that. And he also did some trial run-throughs of like what would have happened, what would have been left if JFK would have still been there. But the truth is that we don't know. And he could have actually done some good while presidents still had some say.
And let's not forget the numerology there, 11/22.
And I'd also like to point out that Ashley just said quote, when president still had a say. Clearly, that was not the case. They literally murdered him.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe
Yeah.
when they thought they still had a say.
There you go.
Yeah, I'm sorry to be my cynical self, but I have to be. I don't believe that he was the really good guy that everyone sort of, everyone needs a hero.
No, definitely not.
No, I don't
Definitely
think so
not,
either.
no. He had some shady connections in his past as well, and there's talk that he actually fiddled the election. There was a lot of election fraud going on to actually get him in power in the first place.
And then there's the implication that he and his brother were involved in Marilyn Monroe's death because she was being essentially used in a way like the Mossad setup with Jeffrey Epstein, right?
Yeah.
She was a honeypot. She was an intel communicator, supposedly. So I definitely don't think that he was a good guy. I think he was part of the big club, but I think that he had ideas of his own. And whenever you go rogue, you fuck around, you find out.
Whenever you go rogue, you get blown.
There you go. Something like that.
He had the delusion that he was the one in charge, being president. And
yeah,
if you get a bit uppity like that, they tend to strike you down, don't they?
Yeah, as we say in the South, he got too big for his britches. I also wanted to say hello. Shout out Jen over there on Rumble. And then we have Tunes and Keel and Gentleman Skeptic in our YouTube chat. So I wanted to thank everybody for joining us today. Very happy to see you all.
Can I comment on a comment?
Sure.
Oh, and that was the exact comment. Imagine being named Halfcock. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. I am Sir Halfcock.
It's like Graham Hancock. It's like get your hand off, mate.
Is that Sir Tim and he's using his nom de plume there?
Well,
Yes.
if it was you, just doxed him.
No, he doxed himself last time. He doxed himself.
I've got something to say about that because he's saying that one of the most prolific snipers in the Vietnam conflict tried to replicate Oswald's shot and he couldn't do it. The FBI tried multiple times to replicate Oswald's magic 3 shots from the book depository, and not one of them could get anywhere near his performance.
This is true.
The shots have been fired quickly for a start. He's using a World War II bolt-action rifle.
Okay,
yet, he has managed to achieve deadly accuracy with this thing.
So does that disprove? I mean, I think that it disproves Lee Harvey Oswald, right? He wasn't an expert sniper, etc. But does it disprove sniper theory, or does it say that the person that did it was closer, or kind of what is the overall sentiment in that regard?
Well, multiple shooters, I think. The House Committee on Assassinations, and I think it was in 1976, in their own independent investigation, this is like a government investigation, decided it was a conspiracy. So they decided it, but they said, Oswald was one of them, but there was someone else as well. So to me, if you look at the original Zapruder film, there's no doubt that the killer shot comes from the front. So on the notorious grassy knoll.
Do y'all believe that Oswald was involved at all? That he fired even one single shot?
No, just a patsy. He was
I'm not sure about
working for military intelligence. Sorry, I could talk about the JFK assassination for ages. I've read loads about it. But the policeman ran into the book depository to try and work out what was going on, and they almost immediately came upon Oswald in the lunchroom about 2 floors down from where he was supposed to do the shooting. And he wasn't sweating, he wasn't out of breath. He was just getting a Coke from the Coke machine to go with his lunch. So, and there were witnesses who'd rushed down the stairway he was supposed to use to go outside and see what was going on. And they never saw anyone. So I don't even think he was in there.
And if he was, I would not be surprised at all if he was sort of there, ready, almost even looking through the scope or whatever, and then watched it happen, and then just went, "Holy crap, I'm out of here." I don't know. It's that's sort of my scenario in my head.
Well, that's basically what happened in that movie Shooter, where it was basically the exact same thing.
Shooter?
Yeah, great. Mark Wahlberg, I think.
Oh, the movie.
Wahlberg. Okay.
Yeah.
Wahlberg. That name.
And I did want to say that Jen also was saying that Marilyn was for sure high IQ beta sex kitten pre-Mansfield. And I do think that that's a really good point. He said that's what other researchers have said. I spent hours looking for a pic but couldn't find one of her hand covering her eye. So yes, I definitely think that there was, as far as the Marilyn Monroe connection, there was some very deep, shady stuff going on. And she does seem to have a lot of the hallmarks of somebody who was very traumatized. So nothing would surprise me in that regard as far as she goes.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? Is there the conspiracy theory that JFK wasn't actually assassinated and he's alive and well?
I haven't heard that.
I'd like to think there is one. Yeah. Living in Argentina with Hitler.
That was literally... We're on the same page, Terry. We're halfway across the world, but on the same page.
It's somewhere in the bunker in Antarctica.
Oh, I liked when you butchered it first and said somewhere in the butt.
So I never really thought that he was one of the ones that could have that survived, especially because they took out Bobby as well.
Yeah, well, it's a whole. They said it was a curse of the family, didn't they? And also, of course, the young one, John, and his girlfriend on the plane.
Okay, so Sir Tim was saying there's one about JFK Jr. not dying in that plane crash. Now, I did hear that, and I also heard
it's very
that
Q.
He was supposed to come back.
There's an idea that he's
Donald
Q.
Trump.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Well, and Toons says that he saw his brains, unless Photoshop was invented in the 60s. I would counter with, you saw someone's brains.
Well, there were 2 autopsies, yeah. So he's in the original brain was missing for a long time. So there were witnesses at the autopsy said, you know, the one that they showed to the public is not the guy I was examining in the autopsy room.
The other thing, the point that I wanted to bring up in addition to that is that the guy who did the autopsy is this famous, what is the word I'm looking for? Autopsist. That's not right. Coroner. The coroner.
Yeah, coroner.
But, what did you say, Stella?
What you said, coroner.
Yeah. Okay. So that was the same guy that did Jeffrey Epstein's secondary autopsy, not the first one.
Wow, and he was retired at that point, correct? And he came out of retirement just to do that?
He would be hired by families who wanted his expert opinion or attorneys who wanted his expert opinion. So it was actually Jeffrey Epstein's brother that hired him to do the second autopsy. And then, of course, he had the same conclusion that we all have. Hashtag Epstein didn't kill himself. Yeah.
Because he's still alive.
We've got one of those coroners in Britain. They wheel him out for all these false flag operations. Oh yeah, he died this way.
Isn't it amazing how no matter where you are, it's always the same people that are connected to all this fuckery.
Yes, that's the one. Michael Baden. Yes, Sir Tim for the win.
Oh, you're on it, Tim. You're on it.
Yeah, that's
always
the one.
Welcome.
And it's so fascinating, too, like what Terry said, is that they have their people that are wheeled out often enough to help, meet whatever the narrative happens to be, yet not quite so much as to put off alarm bells, but enough to be like, oh, well, this guy's really an expert. We better really listen to what he said.
Sorry.
Yeah, sorry, I was going to say, in the case in Britain, there was like some false flaggy shooting that happened up in the north of England, but they actually used this coroner in London, which they weren't supposed to do, because the law said you're supposed to use a local coroner. The same thing happened in JFK. I think the Dallas coroner was officially supposed to be doing the autopsy, and he was kicked out by all these military and intelligence people, which wasn't the law. He was supposed to be doing it.
Right. And
that's not suspicious at all.
No.
I just wanted to address Toon's comment here. I saw his brains unless Photoshop was invented in the 60s. Well, apart from the fact that, yes, they still could do film tricks. They've been doing that for a lot longer, before the 60s. I mean, very crude, but they were. So that is a possibility. However, Photoshop, I'm not really 100% sure of the very first version of Photoshop, but I'm going to sort of guess it was maybe very late 90s, which kind of equates to, they don't show us the latest technology. What we get are toys, basically. By the time we reach them, they're like introductory kindergarten toys compared to what they have, in my opinion.
Even in 95, I could fuck around on Microsoft Paint, make some pretty compelling shit.
Yeah, exactly. So, who knows what they were doing. But yeah, I mean, I sort of tend to agree. It's like, I don't know how much a coroner would be able to find, because it's certainly as sure as heck looked like his brains, made some, new upholstery. I don't know. It just went everywhere, didn't it? Sort of the top of his head was basically blown off.
There was a lot of fuckery going on in those autopsies, or those autopsies, because there were at least two. So, there was a lot of stuff going on. Apparently, they took the casket that everyone saw on television didn't actually hold his body, and they had another secret one delivered around the back. So there was all sorts of funny stuff going on.
Yeah.
Yes, and also, sorry, go.
I was just going to say the other thing about the switching out the coroners that I thought was really strange is that if you're as prepared as you're supposed to be. Okay, I'll give you an example. So in the case of Damar Hamlin, right, with an NFL game, in order for like the location of the stadium and all that stuff, you have to be within a certain square mile of a level 4 trauma center, right? So you would think that the game plan for if something happens to the president would be a lot more locked down than like, oh, this coroner is not allowed to do it, right? You would think that you would have a whole team.
Mm-hmm.
And even if you really cared about the president and you took that job seriously, you wouldn't want to think about that, but you would need to be prepared for that, right? You would need to be prepared. So the coroner in that town should know you're not on this gig if it was all on the up and up. That's a thought.
And let's not forget that after the incident, the car took off, and then when it was kind of out of shot, basically, it took off and it hesitated. Well, it stopped somewhere out of sight under correct me if I'm wrong, Terry, under a bridge or something. And it sat there for, I can't remember the amount of time. It was something like a minute or a minute and a half or something. Now, who knows what was happening there? If it was legit, let's pretend, obviously it would be a sort of, let's get him out of here and then let's stop here and turn around and suss out exactly the situation. But what actually happened in that time when they were under the bridge? Was there a swap over? Was there, who knows what sort of fuckery might have gone on?
Yeah, and the other thing about
you're
that,
right. And I was going to say the car actually stopped during the shooting when the driver, according to his training, should have taken off. You would have thought he actually slowed right down just before the big headshot. So that was a bit suspicious in itself.
Yes, it did, didn't it? Yeah.
And then that also, as far as the bridge statement goes, that reminded me of Diana's death, because we know that they were under a bridge, stopped for a very, very long time before getting medical help with her. So really quick, Tunes was saying, has there been a follow-up on the Hamlin situation? So he is back this season, but I don't really know how much he has played. And then I have seen people, of course, questioning whether or not it's actually him or not. So I haven't seen a lot of a follow-up in that regard, Tunes, but he is supposedly back playing with the Buffalo Bills.
It puts the vaccine on its skin, or it gets the hose again.
Yeah. So Gentleman Skeptic said, it could be that a lot of the protocols regarding the president are a result of the JFK assassination. Problem, reaction, solution. That's a good point.
Yes, it always is, isn't it? I mean, that's just an underlying bed, really, that they build all their nefarious constructions on.
Well, how bad did the Secret Service fuck up that day? Like, you have one job. If someone starts shooting at the president, you put yourself in between him and the bullet.
Yeah, well, they didn't fuck up. They actually did their job. Terry?
Clearly.
I think I think they changed the route as well. If you watch the film JFK, it actually gets a lot of things right according to the books I've read. And the thing about changing the route, so they have to go around that slow turn and bring him into the sort of kill zone. As far as I know, is true. So there was a lot of, I think there had to be a lot of hands involved because there was a lot of coordination that had to go on.
That is, that's a good point. And that's the Oliver Stone film that you're talking about, Terry.
Yeah, the Oliver Stone.
Oliver Stone, yeah. Stone, which is a what do you call it? Version, I suppose, of Stein. Anyway.
So really quick before we move out of this subject, I wanted to say that Jen said the older latitude and longitude of Dallas was 3396. And then he also said Point de Alma, Bridge of the Soul, was happened to be where Diana was taken.
Wow.
So, but anyway, so this topic is certainly, we could spend a lot of time talking about this, but I did want to just bring that up because of Chuck Ocelli, our episode with him, the anniversary coming up. But I do want to go ahead and move us forward. So why don't we go with Terry's story?
Just before we do, I just wanted to add one very last little comment. Oliver Stone, I don't trust in any way, shape or form, nor do I trust his son, Sean, who's self-confessed Muslim. Not that there's anything wrong with that, just saying. And yeah, there's Roger Stone is another one. I'm not saying this off, speaking out my butt. It's because I've read some stuff and it is possible. I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying it's possible. And I personally think they're in the club. Moving on. Sorry. Thank you, Ashley.
I have one more. It's real quick. Terry mentioned Vietnam, and did you guys know that in Vietnam they call it the American War, not the Vietnam War?
Oh, really?
I just
would
thought
be
that
right.
was a fun fact. It's like, oh, that makes sense.
That makes sense. Yeah.
It was one great big experimental thing, really. I mean, they were trying out a whole bunch of stuff in the Vietnam War, including from weather modification to, I don't know, tactics, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. The trouble is, if you call something the American War, doesn't really narrow it down very much, does it?
Not at all. Not at all. So Tim says Killing of the King ritual if you really want to get into the woo-woo around JFK. For sure. There's a lot of woo-woo there. Yeah. And then
I'm sure Jin and Tim could probably have a quite interesting conversation. We should have them both on sometime.
Yeah. So Jin said that Sean Stone is a total alien tard. And then he said about the the Killing of the King, he said, true, he had a show known Eslan Front Gaia. Oh, that must be one of the stones there that he's talking about.
Yeah, they're all sus as hell.
Oh, it's definitely the War of Northern Aggression, the Civil War,
yes.
Tim.
So,
yeah.
Tim's pointed out that the Civil War in the South is called the War of Northern Aggression. Quite rightly so, I think.
Agreed.
Right.
Agreed.
Yeah, very much so.
All right. Well, that was a really lovely discussion, but I do want to make sure that we have time for everybody. So, Terry, why don't you tell us about your story?
Well, I have some potential white pill moments here. Now, I forgive you if you're going to be very skeptical about this, but we have an apparent new libertarian president of Argentina, Javier Milei, who surprisingly has just won the Argentinian election. And he's supposed to be a bit of a fan of people like Rothbard, who's one of his dogs is named after them. So I've got a nice article from the Western Journal here, which could maybe go in the notes. He's now taken control of the Casa Rosada, the Pink House. Did you know that the Argentinian president lives in the Pink House? It's a bit gay, isn't it? But anyway.
I was just about to yell gay.
He was goalkeeper for a football team in Buenos Aires. But more importantly, he had an interview with Tucker Carlson, and he's talking about things like getting rid of the central bank. He wants to get rid of a lot of government departments. What else? He wants a sort of sound currency. He's very much against socialism and communism. He's quoted here, "I have a clear agenda which goes against everything that is socialism or communism. Everyone who is against socialism or communism is on the side I am on. This is my guiding principle." And the mainstream media are calling him the sort of Argentinian Trump. So, and obviously a racist and a right winger and a dangerous Nazi. So basically, it can't all be bad, I think. So yeah, it's very interesting to see. I fear for him because I think we all know that
because of his allegiance to Israel.
Yeah, well, I fear for him because leaders in the past who've tried to get rid of central banks have not done very well. I'm thinking of people like Gaddafi, Saddam Hussein, Assad in Syria. All these countries have in common they tried to sort of go away from the central bank and the dollar hegemony, and things didn't end very well for them. So if he's serious about some of those plans, he might want to employ a few more bodyguards. Talking of assassinations, as we were just now.
I'm gonna okay, go.
What South American country was it that made Bitcoin their legal tender?
El Salvador.
Salvador, yeah. And they're doing very well, apparently. Their economy's grown a lot in the last few years since they made that announcement.
Definitely over the last few weeks. Bitcoin's back up to over 37.
Yes.
Praise
to the moon. So what do we think? Are we all very skeptical, or are we optimistic that something good might come out of this?
So obviously there's the WEF connections, which, I mean, is the WEF just putting up pictures of anti-war establishments to make us think that there is some conspiracy theory with the WEF? Or,
well,
like,
that is a possibility, because I think, yeah, sorry, carry on, I'll let you finish.
It's just, how deep does the psyop?
How deep is your psyop? Is your psyop? How deep
Very nice.
is your psyop?
It's definitely deeper than my butt.
Yeah. Tulsi Gabbard is always claiming that she's not a member of the WEF, and is sort of always having arguments with the WEF of claiming her as a member. So I don't know what side you believe there, but it wouldn't surprise me if like Justin says, they claim members just to sort of make out they're on the wrong side of things.
Hey, I think it's possible, and I do think that this is certainly a very divisive topic today in the liberty community about who is this guy, a WEF puppet. He is definitely a Zionist. I always get skeptical, especially in today's day and time. I would love to be hopeful. I would love for him to be based and red-pilled, and I hope that he is. But as you said, if he truly is, then he's in danger.
Would you like a based and red-pilled moment? Regardless of any affiliations he may have, the fact of the matter is, I mean, if we're assuming that elections, at least in this specific scenario, are in fact not fake and gay, then the based red-pilled moment would be that a country elected a president that was at least saying those things, which is a monumental step towards freedom and prosperity.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That is very much what Tom Woods said about it today. He said, even if he doesn't go through with these promises, the fact that he got so much support by saying those things is a really good sign.
And I didn't even have to read that 36 paragraph monologue he wrote. So
Jen over on Rumble, well, he's saying a lot of things, but he said at least a Zionist tells you who they are, whereas a true Sabbatean is only subversive. And he said that he does agree with you.
May I put my 2 cents in now?
Yeah,
absolutely. I'm imagining you're going to be somewhat skeptical, Stella. That'd be right.
if I could reach through the screen and grab you all and slap your face, I would.
Excellent. Consider myself slapped.
And shake you around a bit and say, for fuck's sake, wake up. Because, like, I mean that with love, but come on, I mean, people.
You could probably do that. You could probably do that with Terry, but me and Ashley are Americans that practice our constitutionally protected amendments.
All right, well, that's great.
Yeah.
Look,
quite right.
Have we learned nothing, people? Come on. There's a WEF connection here. Like, Legal Man basically said it all. Did he even put a word in that post? I bet he didn't. He probably just posted that picture. Did he say anything? Like, was it the picture says it all?
What are you talking about?
Legal Man's post of the WEF connection with...
Oh, I don't know.
I don't think I saw it, or if I did, I didn't read it.
Oh, we look, I'm sorry if this is offensive, but we really need to grow up, okay? We've got to stop thinking that there's going to be this hero's good, that hero's good. These heroes are supplied. These people are inserted.
No.
It is infiltrated.
I don't think we think
they are
he's
selected.
A hero.
Yeah, but he is, because
I don't
if you
agree.
saw the footage, you would see that the population were cheering, and he's going, oh, and they're all just going, yay, we've got freedom. There was lots of freedom signs.
That happens after every election. That happened with Joe Biden, for fuck's sake.
Well, and I'd also say
I don't agree. I don't agree with the principle that all politicians are exactly the same. I think you can get presidents that are slightly better than others, and governors of American states that are slightly better than others. It's like
they have penetrated the cabinet.
I'd much rather live in Florida under DeSantis than live in California under Newsom.
Okay, well, you guys believe in whatever you want, but yeah. Anyway, that's just my take. Sorry, I know it's harsh, but we've got to get real.
As far as the people in Argentina are, I would assume that they're living in such abject poverty that the only thing keeping them going is hope that someone's going to come in and not just fucking murder everyone. But I do agree.
Well, time will tell. Time will tell.
I do agree that everyone in the libertarian sphere, sucking his dick is a bit premature to say the least.
I mean, yeah.
Especially
Absolutely.
The biggest.
See what he does.
My biggest red flag was when Ben Shapiro took a screenshot of him winning the election and posted, quote, "This is awesome." It's like, oh, we're fucked.
Yeah, for sure. I've been in a real weird place lately too, considering what's going on with the Middle East, right? Because a lot of people are they're huge Zionists, and that means that they're on the same page as like Hillary Clinton and a lot of other of the absolute worst people. However, if you are taking a stand of like, what's going on here? The Palestinian people are, they're suffering right now. You're trying to do genocide, all this stuff, then you're on the same page as like Rashida Tlaib, which is equally horrible.
Yeah.
So I just think it all sucks, basically,
Well, as a Southerner, I don't appreciate you condemning Rashida Tlaib just because she's married to her brother.
Wrong. That's the other one. The other member of the squad.
I think
Ilhan Omar.
I think actually that's why they played that Middle East conflict card, because you're either going to be with Hamas and that's terrible, or you're going to be with Israel and that's also terrible. And and the people who say, well, I think there are bad people on both sides, they end up sounding like Trump, don't they? So there's no win. There's no way to win this particular one.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look, as an Aussie, I'm not really that familiar with a lot of these characters like you guys are. But what was it? Imran Omar. What's her name?
Ilhan Omar.
Ilhan. I remember, right, back in the, when was it? 2020 was the election, yeah. I remember, and I'm not a huge fan of Project Veritas either, because I think they're probably CEOs. But regardless, there was some very, very damning videos that came out. I don't even know if they're still around or whatever. I haven't looked at them, but that was quite kind of eye-opening. So whether we were meant to see it, probably. But a lot of the immigration sort of areas, you know, I mean, we know that they're being brought in for votes. So, and she was a pretty major player in a lot of the, there was some quite damning video that I saw and some points made about her and her community and what she was sort of directing about the voting, you know, basically the fuckery. Sorry to swear again. It's been terrible this episode.
Oh, I said
I'm a bit riled up.
I said the S word in chat. We're screwed.
All right, cool. So yeah, there was. Okay, good. We're all in the same club. It's a little club, and we're all in it. But yeah, I saw some pretty damning video of her sort of basically at the head of the legless lizard. Wouldn't say snake, but legless lizard. Yeah, just completely voting. Yeah, sorry, I'm just repeating myself now, but I just remember it was quite damning in the sense of, unless this is a completely scripted thing and she's completely playing along, there's got to be some little form of exposure here and there, even though, again, Project Veritas is possibly part of the script, but probably actually. But anyway, I always remember her. She went into my slot of caution back then when I didn't really know much about it, and now it's just like, yeah, it's all part of the play.
Absolutely. I definitely have found myself just thinking, man, this is really awful. If you have anything that on any issues that you happen to be coinciding with the squad on, because they're horrible progressives, you know, they're awful. But in this one little issue, as far as like, maybe we shouldn't start World War III, they're actually right. And I do think that part of this has been to continue the divide and conquer narrative, just to give people more shit to fight about, basically. So Toons had said that Argentina demographics is 90% white. The libertarians will open the borders and make it another melting pot nation. Fair. They have really been awful and very woke lately. So I'm 100% with you in that.
Yeah, I mean, let's look at the whole immigration thing, the whole agenda. Let's take a step back again to the really, really big picture. The whole agenda is to eradicate whites, dilute white, and make the population brown, or as I prefer to call it, beige, sort of the color that you put on walls, you know. And that's the whole idea, is to basically eradicate all those things: nationalism, unity, nation pride, different kind of pride. I mean, that's what they do. They're even sabotaging the words, so we can't even say certain words like pride, resilience, etc. It's like, no, they own that. I don't even want to say that word anymore, because I'm going to be, in my head at least, associating with their agenda. So that's what they're doing, and it's fairly obvious they're bringing the immigrants in because A, they're going to get a whole bunch of votes. B, you know, it supports the narrative, etc. And I wish that the immigrants themselves would wake up to the fact that they are going to be discarded like trash when it suits them.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I saw a really hilarious story that some immigrants were starting to go back to their home country because it was so bad living in the States.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to say that Ando, hey Ando, shout out. I had to check and see who it was. He's Dose Toes, but he said that Toons makes a good point. And Jen also said on the Lulbert topic, he said, absolutely, the quote, war ruined online libertarians. 501c4s are just dark money PACs. I know this is spicy. I'm with you. I really think that a lot of the quote libertarian people online, I'm like, you're just woke. You're like, you're awful. You're just awful. This is why everyone hates you.
Ashley, can we go one podcast without you doxing someone? You just doxed Ando.
His picture is Burn Babylon Burn, which is the name of his podcast. So sorry, Ando. So Sir Tim said, in order to solve race relations, we all got to keep fucking until we're all the same color, from the movie Bulworth.
I mean, I married an Asian, so sorry, white race.
Yeah, it's because you're an operative and you're a part of the Caligari plan, Justin, I'm sure.
Honestly, it's because feminism has ruined women in America.
Well, that's an unknown that needs to go in the corner.
All right.
I'm married to Scott. Does that count?
Yes, kind of. I don't know.
Very fair and pale. Yes, that's fine.
Let's have a meeting with all the white people. I know we let the Irish in as whites. I'm not so sure about the Scots.
And let me just point out something that's, like I have never, ever really worried about race and etc. Like never even thought about even certain religious cultural type groups that are, mustn't be named. I was a little bit worried about the amount of immigrants were coming into Australia because it's, it's sort of, you could see what was happening, but not like personally, them or whatever. But since this, it's like it has really raised into the psyche of people, that never really thought about race much before, thinking about race. And that is also like the big picture, their agenda. It's putting something into our psyche that probably was never ever a problem. And I mean, I know I'm stating the obvious again, but it really has, looking back over the last few years, it's just taken all the natural organic peace and the unity we have as human beings and put it all into question, ripped it up and, chewed it up and spat it out basically to the point where we're questioning things we never would have questioned before.
Yeah.
So screw you, you bloody nefarious reptiles.
Once you start noticing, you can't stop noticing.
Totally
well,
agree.
The thing is, and it kind of goes back to what Monica said, right? There's a difference between people migrating somewhere because they want to go to that place, because they want to live and work and establish a business and be in whatever community that they choose to be in, right? Like that's one thing. But then when you're purposefully taking military aged men from Africa and exporting them all over the world, and you have Somalis in Minnesota, as we talked about, like that's a different situation. That's a different situation. So Sir Tim said the UN has a white paper about replacement migration, and we know about the Caligari plan. And then he also says that the real division, the elites and everyone else, and that is facts.
Absolutely. And would you like to just explain? Sorry, you go, Terry.
Sorry, carry on.
I
was going to say there was an Irish guy at the UN who was the official sort of migration man, minister, whatever the UN call their people, and he made a speech where he said, we need to increase migration to sort of dilute white European culture. He actually said this in a speech at the UN. So
yep, that's what it's all about.
Horrible guy. I can't remember. Robinson, I think his name was. Really horrible guy.
Yeah. So anyway, strange times. We know that for sure.
Yep. Before we move on,
times.
I just wanted to not assume that our listeners know exactly what we're talking about. So the Kalergi plan, Kalergi, sometimes called the, I haven't seen this one, Coudenhove-Kalergi conspiracy. You haven't seen that. Is a far-right anti-Semitic white genocide conspiracy theory. The theory claims the Austrian-Japanese politician Richard von Kundugü concocted a plot to mix white Europeans with other races via immigration. The conspiracy theory is most often associated with European groups and parties, but it has also spread to North American politics and, may I say, Australia.
Definitely.
I don't like the term North American
conspiracy
politics.
theory. They've said this stuff out loud. It's not a conspiracy theory, for goodness sake.
Well, the theory, it's a conspiracy fact. Exactly.
Yeah.
So there you go.
It's just like they say that the JFK is a conspiracy theory. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Because we know he's alive, really, and living in Argentina.
Exactly.
Okay.
If you guys haven't watched the documentary Iron Sky and Iron Sky 2, get on it and get back to us.
All right. So why don't we move into our next story? Justin, why don't you tell us what you got?
So I just got a quick update to a story I did all the way back on Not Your Mama's News, number 17, which released December 17th of 2022. The original story was West Virginia judge, sorry if I'm repeating for our longtime listeners, but West Virginia divorce court judge basically did a warrantless search and seizure of the husband's property and house. So basically what happened was the husband and wife were bickering, and the judge says, okay, well, we're going to go out to the house. And then she let the wife, go around and like pick all the shit that she wanted to take. So he sued, rightfully so, but in America, judges get what's called judicial immunity. So that's different from qualified immunity in that judicial immunity covers everything, like everything, unless it's something like extracurricular outside of their job. And that's where we got her. But this is from the Institute for Justice. Great organization, IJ.org. They are really fighting the fight as best they can, and trying to pick. It's all pro bono. They just take cases that would cost millions and millions of dollars to go up against the federal government. So October 30th, the Fourth Circuit of Appeals unanimously ruled in favor of Matthew Gibson, who is the guy that was that sued him. Both the Fourth Circuit and West Virginia Supreme Court have now agreed was well outside her powers as a judge, and Matthew was represented by the Institute for Justice. This is from the Institute for Justice. Separation of powers exists for a reason, so that no one person can be judge, jury, and executioner. Checks and balances must be maintained to ensure a fair and free society, and judges who act beyond their constitutional mandate should not expect the protection of immunity. And while to all of us, it's like, well, yeah, no shit. You got to understand that it is almost literally impossible to sue a judge and not just have it dismissed on judicial immunity. So yes, they just did a field trip over to the dude's house with the bailiff, and they wouldn't let him record what they were doing inside his own house, which is just like wild on top of wild. So accompanied by Matthew's ex-wife, her attorney, and a bailiff, among others, Goldston walked barefoot through the house, ordering Matthew's ex-wife to seize DVDs, yearbooks, and even pictures off the wall. Some of the items didn't belong with her, and when Matthew tried to record the encounter, the judge threatened him with arrest. Because you also got to remember that when a judge is in her courtroom, they're basically God. Like, they can do and say whatever they want, and it's not that they don't answer to anyone, but there's no instant accountability. And even when there is accountability, this happens. Goldston was ultimately censured and fined and roundly condemned by the West Virginia High Court for violating the state's code of judicial conduct. She ended up retiring from her position amid a legislative push to impeach her for violating the rights of West Virginians. The resolution to impeach Goldston specifically mentioned the judge leading a warrantless search of Matthew's home. Despite her retirement, Matthew and the Institute for Justice continue moving forward with their lawsuit against Goldston, wanting to ensure that the egregious violation wouldn't happen again. I can pretty much guarantee you that this is also going to go up to appeal. I mean, the West Virginia Supreme Court is the highest law in the state, so they can't appeal that except to the Supreme Court of the U.S., and I'm sure that they're going to appeal the Fourth Circuit's ruling as well. Oh, and also, it's been almost a year since I originally did this story. I do believe that the government is paying for Goldston's defense as well. Questions, concerns?
Goldstein, did you say?
I remember the story very well. I remember this story very well because I dubbed her Judge Dreadful in the show notes. I seem to remember because she was a bit Judge Dreddy, wasn't she? And she thought she was judge, jury, and executioner, and she thought she could do anything. So it was just totally outrageous.
So in this particular case, so what we're saying is that it's a small win for the little guy, but you feel like maybe it might ultimately get overturned in favor of the judge? Or do you think that this guy's victory will be upheld?
So, if I can't imagine that if it does make its way to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court takes the case, because they take a very, very small percentage of the cases that are requested of them. I can't imagine the Supreme Court would go along with the state, but who knows? But there's much more liberal courts before you make it to the Supreme Court. And all it takes is the higher up court that you're appealing to say, no, this was right. And then you basically don't get any more appeals. At least that is my understanding of the law.
Oh, really?
I'm not a lawyer, so this is not legal advice.
Hey, is the Supreme Court technically a federal court?
Yes.
So does it have to be a federal matter to go to the Supreme Court?
No. So there's the excuse me, each state has their own Supreme Court. So within that state, if you make it to the Supreme Court and they agree with you, then that's final. Unless the Supreme Court of the United States takes the case, in which they could actually say, as a matter of fact, or, creating law, that no, this is this, and this is how it is to be. Basically, and that's literally how qualified immunity was created for all government workers.
Hey, Brucey has entered the chat, and he said that he prefers the People's Court.
Here, Brucey. Always welcome. Look, as soon as I heard you say judicial immunity, I kind of tuned out. I'm sorry, but
I don't blame you.
It's like a judicial immunity against the virus of corruption, and that's where it sort of stops. I mean, people are placed. That's why they're so confident. That's why we're seeing things in plain sight now, because they're way past the point of anyone of us being able to do anything about it. I mean, there's people up there trying. God bless them. I tip my hat to them. But good luck with that.
Yeah, and there's Sue for Justice. What their mission, from what I've seen, is just trying to find the cases that they'll be able, because they're really good lawyers. So they want to be able to set precedent for future cases, and whether or not their work is going to have any long-term effects as far as freedom across America, it'll probably have a tiny blip of effect. But what's really important is the people that they're actually working with that are filing these lawsuits, because a lot of them are there was one where they took a case that someone had their life savings seized under civil asset forfeiture law, and they came up with a really out of the way reason for why that was illegal. So it's good because it does set that precedent that in these exact conditions, if they were to happen again, this is now the rule of law. But now that one person that had $100,000 stolen from them by the government, it would have cost $250,000 to go to all the court, and years and years and years of lawsuits. And they'd step in and take it pro bono.
Yeah.
So I'll take anything.
Their go-to argument these days seem to be they don't have standing. Don't they use that a lot in these election cases. And there was talking of legal matters. There was a case. There's this really good lawyer in New York City who managed to get a win about something to do with the COVID mandates. I can't remember exactly now, but she was trying to get they tried to set up these COVID quarantine camps. She was trying to get that overturned at court, and they used you have the no standing argument, even though the people who brought the case would have been put in these quarantine camps had the New York City have got its way, or New York State possibly it was. Anyway, but they once again trotted out you don't have have any standing. You know, I don't know how you, in election cases, it seems ridiculous because you're voting. How can you not have any standing? You know, your vote should count.
Because what it comes down to is that in a lot of states, judges are an elected official. So they want to be on the right side of their history. But also on that note, in a lot of states, judges are elected. So, and a lot of these votes get, you know, a couple thousand votes. And as someone that has never voted and will always say that voting is fake and gay, if you were to vote, things like that, sheriffs, local school board, those are the ones that I would say, like, if you are going to, you know, make that effort, that's where we have the most possibility of actually, you know, getting some sort of change, at least locally.
I couldn't agree more. That is the only chance there is, I think, if there is a chance, and I'm trying not to be too black-pilled there because maybe there is, but that is it. It has to go from ground level, like absolute root level, because that's how all these things are created and how they're controlled. But unfortunately, there is another, I wish I could remember the name of the website now, but it's something like Committee of Mayors or something like that, mayors, you know, where, you know, they are, yet again, they're not elected, they are selected, okay? We've got to get that through our heads. They have infiltrated the cabinets, okay? That goes down to ground level as well, unfortunately. So, you know, I don't think there's going to be any, like, really genuine change until people start getting that into their heads. Right, we have to realize they are a little bit further ahead than we think they are. They are a little bit more widespread than we think they are, possibly. Like, I'm talking generally. And there's a hell of a lot of people out there who still have no freaking idea. So there's that.
And Black Pill, previous Union of the Unknowns guest, Forest Mommy, lost her bid for election in Colorado. So
she did, and she did comment. She commented on the fact that they voted for progressives, which is not surprised because it's weaponized empathy. You know, people think that they're doing the right thing for the poor, the needy, all of that, and by voting, but it's actually, I mean, it's horrible. But
and just think, I almost felt bad when we were talking to her, and I called Colorado a shithole country. And what a silly thing for me to start to feel bad for her, because they proved it once again.
But can I counterbalance with a bit of a white pill, because I did listen fairly recently to a guy.
Please,
depends. Is it oxycodone?
Elected mayor of his local town, and he's a genuine libertarian guy apparently, and quite often he was saying that these elections are just, you know, a few thousand or even a few hundred votes, because hardly anyone can be bothered to vote or campaign. And he actually campaigned against his opponent, which took him by surprise, because this guy had been voted in on the nod for the last few times, and this guy won the mayoral race. So, you know, it's like you were saying, Justin, you go in at the local level where a few votes might count. And sheriffs, I was saying when you mentioned that, I think you Americans have really got to try and get the right guy in as sheriff, because they're the ones who enforce the law. And a lot of them, the good ones, say, we're not going to enforce this law because it's unconstitutional. There was a lot of that going on during COVID.
Yep.
Yeah, that is definitely a place that a difference can still be made, because they were refusing to enforce X, Y, and Z, particularly mask mandates in the county that I operate in. They were, you know, they said they would not be enforcing that here. So there is some difference to be made there. Ando also said that he used to live there, and it was true. I guess that it was a shithole country.
Well, it used to be backwoods rednecks and cowboys. Now it's a shithole country.
And I do think that Forest Mommy made that point as well, that it really had changed a lot over these last many decades. But anyway, so we'll keep an eye on that. Thank you, Justin. And I did want to go ahead and move to our last story of the evening, and that is Stella's story. What do you have for us?
Oh, hello. Yes, believe it or not, believe it or not, I've got a white pill. Okay.
I hope
Kiki
this
fills
one's
up on the floor.
oxycodone.
Right, so we're going to move on to our favourite dictator in Australia, the one and
Dictator
only.
Dan.
Oh, Dan.
Yes, he was a
Dictator
hell of
Dan.
a dictator, that one. Dictator Dan Andrews, 2 first names. Yes, he is now
Is he
retired.
dead? Is that the white pill? Is he dead?
Not yet. Just dead in the water.
Oh, no.
But, one can hope. Oh, I shouldn't say that.
You
I'm not
really
meant to say
shouldn't.
that. I know I shouldn't. And it's
No,
very
you
hard
should.
not to feel hatred towards some of these nefarious reptiles. It really is very hard.
Well, if it makes you feel better, I often reaffirm my belief in God. And what makes me feel better is that these people will eventually answer for their sins against humanity.
Lovely
Could only
segue.
hope,
Thank you,
yeah.
Justin, because I would like to present some karma. So, as we know, our elites love to play golf, correct? It seems to be a thing, the big club.
I saw this
Gentleman's
story.
sport.
This is good, yeah.
I would have
That's it.
assumed in Australia it would be like cricket or some gay shit.
Now, I don't know. Maybe Tim can... is Dan Andrews the pillock that was on vacation during Aussie wildfires? No, that was the Prime Minister, mate. That was Prime Minister Scott Morrison. Also just as nefarious.
Pillock as well. He is another pillock, I would say that. Yeah.
Oh, yes, definitely. And, oh, gosh,
Are
look, we
Americans
could go right
familiar
into
with the
Scott
word
Morrison.
pillock, do you think? Do we know what a pillock is in America?
No.
Explain
I was
it,
gonna
please,
say
Terry.
wanker.
Yeah,
Is it a wanker?
exactly.
I had no idea.
I'll be very honest, I have never heard that term either.
Oh, really?
Yes. Must be very,
Is
very British.
Tim a Brit? I didn't actually know that.
Yeah, I just
Anyway.
gleaned from context.
Okay. Well, anyway, so Dan Andrews has, he sort of stepped down. He's probably gone down for a few cocktails in the bunker, but he's back. And he wants to go and join. I mean, he loves his golf too. So he wants to go and join some of the golf clubs, the elite golf clubs in the Mornington Peninsula, which is south of the southern end of Victoria. So it's basically the most southern point of Australia before you get to Tasmania. It has not gone down terribly well. It's so fun to watch. So, yes, he's tried to join up and there's been much... we may as well run the video. There's been much... joining unity of people, because let's not forget that Dan Andrews and Victoria was the most locked down in the world of all countries.
Mm-hmm.
It was the most locked down, and in the time, as it's going to be said in this story, but I'm going to say it anyway, in that time, other golf clubs around the world were allowed to go out and play golf. Allowed, I hate that word, to go out and play golf, whereas they were locked down in Victoria. So now that Dan wants to go and join some of these golf clubs, people are just going, nah, no way, get F off.
Quick,
Good.
Justin.
why does her necklace look like some weird pedo occult shit?
We could get onto that, but let's not, because that's another episode. Yeah, I don't know. She wears some interesting jewelry. I've noticed that. Anyway, we'll just let her. Look, I'm not a big advocate of Sky News because it is a Rupert Murdoch, news. What is it? News media. I can't remember the name of the news.
Fake news. Gay news.
It's gone from my brain at the moment, but
Part of the Murdoch.
News Corp.
Of Murdoch, yeah. It is the best mainstream news channel, though, I think.
That's the thing. I would rather give Sky News the clicks because they are sort of playing the game of our friends at the moment. Pied Pipers, Judas Goats. So I'd rather give them the clicks than, say, the mainstream. So that's why I refer to Sky News in case anyone's wondering, but I'm not a fan. They've got they're the heroes. They're the heroes the community needs at the moment. But anyway, they bring some interesting stories, enough to make us feel like we can trot along and someone's on our side. But they'll have their day, I'm sure. Anyway, let's roll the tape. The tape. Oh God. Did I just Let's just run the video.
All right. Let me know
Totally
if you have issues with sound.
Let's have a little fun at the expense of former Victorian Premier Dan Andrews, who is finding out that he's not Teflon Dan in retirement. The poor guy can't even rub shoulders with the rich folk of the Mornington Peninsula on the region's world-class golf courses. Well, why, you might ask? Well, he's not wanted.
Are you still feeling the effects of the COVID lockdowns?
I think everyone is, to be honest. It was just a shambles, the whole thing. So, yeah, no, I wouldn't play golf with him, no.
So you wouldn't want to play golf with him?
I wouldn't want to play golf with him, no. It was the only place in the world, really, wasn't it? We weren't allowed to play golf.
I really hope this
Give me
is
one second.
What happened there?
I had it on a higher speed. Give me just a second.
I really hope it's just 5 minutes.
No, that was on normal.
If you want to run at 1.25, it'll be a little bit quicker.
Okay, gotcha. I thought you were telling me it was too fast.
No.
Gotcha.
Thanks.
All right.
Cool.
And yes, the volume is all the way up.
Yep, cool.
Everywhere else in the world, you're allowed to play golf. They were right. The Mornington Peninsula were locked indoors. So, yeah, a lot of people still harbour feelings that was the wrong thing. They don't want a situation in our golf clubs where if you put your name down on the timesheet that nobody wants to play with you. That's the real issue. And that's the sort of thing that rips golf clubs apart.
I can give the president a message tonight. Most of the members of his golf club would not want Dan Andrews as a member. If Dan Andrews is allowed to join the Portsea Golf Club, I'll quit, I'll resign, I'll tear up my membership, and I'll go and play golf somewhere else.
Now, let me give you a little more history. Dan Andrews, like many socialists before him, loves nothing more than to rub shoulders with the super wealthy. And he has more than one billionaire mate on the peninsula advocating for him. But even that may not be enough to get him across the line. You know, Australians are typically pretty laid back, live and let live types, but Dan Andrews is uniquely despised by many Victorians. It's a state he ruled with an iron fist for close to a decade, a state where he imposed 6 crippling lockdowns, and a state where he has left record debt, the biggest of any state by some margin. So it should come as no surprise that he's being effectively blackballed from the peninsula's premier golf courses, despite advocacy from his billionaire mates, including property mogul Max Beck. As reported in the Herald Sun this week, the prospect of Andrews becoming a member of Portsea Golf Club had some members seeing red. The reaction saw property tycoon Max Beck lash out at the members of Portsea Golf Club for being small-minded. He said, "It's just all about a bloke who wants to play golf and enjoy the rest of his life. It's ridiculous." He's worked his guts out for the state with his beliefs. I'm very disappointed, but we'll just see whether the committee takes into account his political beliefs or his personality and his golfing ability. They are the two things they should be assessing him on. And later in the week, the Portsea Golf Club president, Phil Kramer, stepped in to remind members that the Portsea Golf Club prides itself on inclusivity and diversity of membership, and in fact has a reputation of being a very welcoming club for all to enjoy playing golf and fellowship. The problem is, Phil, many of your members do not want to enjoy fellowship with Dan Andrews. And it's not just at Portsea Golf Club that Dan is persona non grata. As former golf pro Mark Allen explained this week, he's going to be met with resistance wherever he goes.
They have not forgiven him, and I can tell you this: on Friday night at the Sorrento Hotel, it was the talk of the region, and to the point where not only members from Portsea but members from other clubs were saying that if he's trying to join anywhere down here, they just will not let him join.
You reckon the whole peninsula or Blackburn?
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, just on the Portsea Golf Club president, his statement shows he misunderstood the news reports. As Mick Warner wrote in the Herald Sun, Mr Kramer wrongly asserted that the Herald Sun had suggested that a formal application had been received by the club and Mr Andrews rejected from membership. The Herald Sun, in fact, reported that golfers had been made aware of Mr Beck's proposal for him to be considered for membership, which has occurred, and that there had been strong opposition from many of those members, which also occurred. Mr Andrews is deeply unpopular among some of the Portsea Golf Club members, particularly due to his bans on Victoria's golfing community during the pandemic and his decision to include the Mornington Peninsula in metropolitan restrictions, which were often much tougher than those imposed on regional Victoria. Yes, it may be a small thing, it may even be a little petty, but Dan's golfing predicament is a tiny dose of instant karma, and it's delicious.
Oh, yummy, yum, yum.
Hooray.
Let's eat that up. Oh, it's hilarious.
Can I just, yeah.
Yep. Go, Terry.
I just wanted to say I've been to the Mornington Peninsula when I worked in Melbourne. It's very nice. It's very nice indeed.
Yes,
So,
it is. It's a lovely
and-
place, isn't it? Beautiful.
Yeah.
The Great Ocean Road is all along there. I highly recommend. If anyone is ever going to come to Australia, please include the Great Ocean Road. It's quite nice. Although I must admit, I timed it very badly. And drop bears. I was on the back of a Harley, and it's the wettest I've ever been on a motorbike. It's like it was pouring, and there was nowhere to stop and get some shelter. But that was quite a while ago now. But anyway, back to Dan Andrews. Yes, sucked in because it's about time. But it's funny. Even his billionaire mate doesn't seem to have the power of the people's will and the people's unity. It's a beautiful thing that's happening here right now. In that sense, it's small, but it's lovely.
You love to see it. Absolutely. Because people like that, I'm sure that he's working for other people and he was advised to do that and he went along with it like an absolute psychopath. So you like to see just a little bit of them getting what they deserve.
Just that little bit of just desserts. And I tell you, I mean, I would love to have a game of golf with Dan. We'd probably go off, I don't know, maybe the 18th hole. It'd be a bit of a mishap with a club. Perhaps. Oh, sorry. Sorry about that.
You're
Did you make him wear a mask throughout?
You're playing around in Minecraft now, Stella.
Sorry, what was that, Justin?
You're playing around in Minecraft too much.
Am I? Okay.
Yeah, that's what people, it's like internet slang for whenever you say something that would be a hot take or would get, like the FBI to beat down your door. You say, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z in Minecraft. So
I will say, though, that I do remember reading a story where someone included the words in Minecraft at the end and they still got charged. So,
oh, yeah, it's not protecting you.
Yeah.
Whatever. I'll probably make some new friends if I go to the gulag. It's like, hey, dudes, like-minded.
I was just going to say really quick that Gentleman Skeptic said, I like to think that whoever reviewed his application to the golf club was like, get fucked, mate.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's basically what they're saying now. So, yeah, on mass. I mean, if he's got a billionaire friend, why not just, create your own golf course? Go and have your little elite golf somewhere else and stay away from us peasants because we really don't want you. So it's just a little sweet bit of revenge. I mean, it's tiny, but it's sweet. It's sweet.
He could play socially distanced that way, couldn't he? Have the golf course all to himself.
Exactly. There's your social distancing, mate. Good point.
Stels, I've got a question for you. Was there an election during COVID? I know a lot of these COVID tyrants got re-elected, like horrible Jacinda in New Zealand during the COVID time. Was there an election for him during COVID times?
There was. And how the hell he got voted in? Well, let me go. I mean, I'm not under any illusion at all that they are elected. I think the whole election thing is probably a bit of a cash cow in a sense. I mean, we've just had our referendum, so that was sort of a no vote that came in as well. And I do wonder a little bit about that, but I think it was so overwhelming that it was impossible to deny. You know what I mean? Yeah. They gave the impression that there were lots of yes people out there, but in the community, when you talk to people, it's like, nah, not so much. So yeah, no illusions there. But yes, there was an election. I don't believe it was organic. And that was for the state premiers, which are the same as your, what are they called?
Governors.
Governors, yes. So it's very same sort of thing.
Can I answer Skeptic's question?
Yeah, read it first so people can hear it.
Surely his billionaire friend has something like a buddy pass for the club. I'm pretty sure the buddy pass is only for his asshole.
That is actually, Tim raises a good point there. So Tim, because it would be really interesting to see what happens there, because I'm wondering whether if his billionaire friend, is part of that club or that particular golf club, it'll be interesting to see if there's a bit of a fold or a turnaround there. I'm not too sure because, as a business, it might be like, oh, if this guy takes his membership out, we're screwed sort of thing. So who knows? It could be that because everything generally comes down to money, doesn't it?
Yeah, I would say that usually people that are members of a golf club will have a pass in that they could bring friends for a round, but that is still different than the actual, and excuse me if you already knew that, Tim, but that's still different than becoming a member of a club.
Yeah, I mean, like, he's not going to be able to sit around, have a beer with the citizens, and no one's going to, like, you know, we had a prime minister called Bob Hawke, and even though he was a Fabian, most people thought he was, you know, a really good bloke because most people basically weren't awake, especially in the 70s, 80s, you know, whatever. So he was really the, you know, the blue collar worker, the everyday Australian's mate. That was the persona anyway. And he also... he was also... Oh, I hope you don't hear the siren in the background there. He was also the... I know, it didn't take long, did it? He was also the I believe it still actually stands. He holds the record for drinking a yard glass of beer the quickest. That's our prime minister.
So, hold on, because
Fabian.
Hey,
He's a Fabian.
Was he the one? Was he the one who was supposedly taken out by the CIA? One of your premiers was supposedly taken down by the CIA. I think that might have been Bob Hawke.
He was a prime minister, Bob Hawke. He was
prime minister. Yeah.
Oh no, he died in old age.
Yeah, there was somebody. Yeah, okay. There was one of them who was.
Oh gosh, he might be going back to Harold Holt days.
It was around about his time. You've had some interesting ones. You had that one who went swimming off Mornington.
That was Harold Holt.
And never came back again.
Yes, that was Harold Holt. I think that was like in the 50s or something, though, wasn't it? 60s. That was like a long time ago. That was a bit of a mystery, yes.
Yeah.
But
cool story.
Yeah, Justin.
Can we back up a minute here? Because us good God-fearing American folk, you just said the word yard glass.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to need some clarification.
Oh, you don't do yards. Okay.
It's a yard of ale.
Yeah, it's a really long... It's a long glass.
A yard
which
is length, though.
Yes, that's what
it
is.
Not volume.
Yeah.
That's what it is. So it's a really tall, long, slender neck, and then at the bottom it's like a big bulb sort of thing. So the beer
big bulb, and it's got a sort of cone at the top.
That's right. Yes.
I think it holds about three or 4 pints, right, Stella?
It's a lot, actually. I'm not really sure. I should have looked that one up, but
it's a lot.
Yeah. But yeah, there's footage of him drinking it and breaking the record, so it's a legit record.
Yeah, people in the States
3
drink
foot
yards.
tall. Thanks, Brucey.
Yeah, people in the States do drink yards of beer. They're not all as sheltered as our sweet little sweetheart.
Well, and
here.
you know what I say to those folks in America drinking yard beer? One-way helicopter ride. We don't need none of that commie shit here. This is America. We measure in horse sticks before we use the metric system.
Well,
probably about 10 horse stick glass.
Well, I was going to say, at least it's not a meter of ale. You would never go for that, would you? You
They'd never figure that one out.
No.
So I did have one question and one comment about the video. The first one being the entire time in chat, I was trying to call him a gay nerd. Apparently, you can say the word gay or you can say the word nerd. But if you try and say gay nerd, they will censor you. So luckily, I have this platform to call him a gay nerd.
Luckily.
Because he looks like a gay nerd. Does he not?
Dan Andrews?
Yes.
Oh, yes. Look, as I've said before, he has very grabbable ears and a very kneeable face. So, if anyone feels like
that sort of slutty elite look about him, hasn't he? Like,
he's just so disgusting.
Like the Hotez vaccine guy. He's got that sort of pasty,
arrogant,
healthy.
Oh, the arrogance was just overflowing, like a yard glass of arrogance or two.
And speaking of arrogance, this would have been my favorite news clip I've ever seen if they just went around for 5 minutes doing street interviews with people saying, would you play golf with him? He goes, oh, fuck no, mate.
Oh, look, I'm sure they had to pick and choose which ones to show because there was only a couple there, but they would have had hours of footage of the same people, of different people with the same mindset for sure.
Yeah.
I would have been so happy. Like, maybe we need to hire a street interview guy and he'll just go around like, would you play a round of golf with Billy Bitch Tits Gates?
Yeah,
And
man,
then,
a man on the street.
Yeah,
Get
then
people's reaction.
Yeah.
But also, let me point out quickly that the premiers, I mean, they're all so corrupt. Like the New South Wales past premier, Gladys Berejiklian, she was just found guilty for nefarious, just under the table. I can't even remember exactly what it was, but it was like, yeah, her boyfriend was involved with all sorts of deals under the table, etc. And she didn't say anything. She's been found guilty, which apparently she's appealing right now. But that's our premiers. And then don't even get me started on what's her name? Queensland, bloody Parachuk. What's her name? I can only think of a nickname.
Drawing a blank on this one.
And a pleasure. Oh my gosh, I can't even believe I can't remember it. Plebiscite Parachuk. I don't know. I don't even take their names seriously anymore.
That sounds That sounds like what 0.1% of people are searching for on Pornhub. It's just like some weird out of left park fetish.
Parachuk.
Yeah.
And Annabelle. Oh, hang on, I'll get it. Sorry, you go.
I was just going to say that
something.
Ando said that he could down a yard fast, and he said, "We do yards, Justin." So that's what I'm saying.
I'll smoke a yard.
Come on, Justin, get with the program.
Anastasia Palaszczuk. I'm sorry about that. I can't believe that completely screwed me up. But she went off to, during the lockdowns when no one else is allowed to go out, she went off to, I think it was China to the Olympics and stuff, all that kind of thing. It's like rules for thee, but not for me. So, they can all get stuffed as far as I'm concerned.
Your Northern Territory guy was pretty bad, didn't he? He had
Michael Gunner.
All sorts of bad stuff going on.
Yeah, Michael Gunner. He was an absolute disgrace to humanity. I mean, they all are, but some of them just seem to take the cake a little bit more than others. He was just. It ended in tears with him. Actually, it was sort of whether they were true or not, but he actually did cry actual tears, so they weren't just crocodile tears, because he was so. Well, he was.
I can make myself cry.
Yeah, but I don't think some of them are just dry. They just don't have it in them, But he was just so nasty that I believe that that it started coming down on his family, like his children and stuff, and so maybe that was his weak point. But they could have all been an act too. Like, here I go, because a lot of them do that. Like, they're really, really nefarious and nasty, and then they cry a few tears, and suddenly the public come running with open arms. Oh, it's all right, we forgive you, just like the police,
With him being from the Northern Territory, would they be crocodile tears?
Yes, exactly. Nice one, Tez.
Sorry about that. Sorry, everyone.
Don't apologise.
Hey,
it's
we
a
love
lovely
it, Terry.
dad joke.
We love it. Never apologize.
We love our puns.
Yes. All right, everybody. Well, I think that has been a really comprehensive show. We've gone a little bit over, but I want to thank everybody that has tuned in. It was really, really great to see everybody chatting with us. I appreciate it so much. One last thing from Tim here. I could make a joke about Australian politicians honoring their criminal heritage. I could, but I won't, because I'm a gentleman.
But you just did, and I applaud you. Because I'm not going to hide it. We're real.
Brit.
See, don't forget that a lot of the so-called criminals that were sent out here, a lot of them were done for very, very minor crimes, like stealing a handkerchief. And some of them didn't even do it. They were just accused of, or a slice of bread, because they were starving. Or they needed to blow their nose real bad, so it's just, it was just a matter of finding people to breed a new community in a new country, basically. Extend the British Empire, so to speak, and get rid of the scum out of the Brits.
Yeah.
In their eyes. But we're a bunch of true blues, and we come from a background of we fight pretty hard in a lot of ways, although we've been diluted, so that's what you see.
You guys really fucked up giving up your guns.
Yeah, well, that was 1996, man. I mean, there wasn't a lot of awakeness going on then. They got in just before people started realizing what was going on. That was also, don't forget the baby boomers generation sort of were kind of still very much at the helm. So that's a generation where people just didn't really question authority. They believed that they really did, that they, TM, did have our best interests at heart, that the authorities were there to run the country well and look after us and blah, blah, blah. They just had no idea to question things. It didn't even enter their heads. So there was that, and then sort of Gen X was just starting. But yeah, that was a real shame. Everyone just felt so terrible because that was an absolute atrocity, children and everything. But that in itself, Port Arthur you've got to be very careful, but FF, not so true flaggy wavy thing, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, and it's now in the year 2023.
I didn't hear anything about that. I didn't hear anything about that in the UK at the time, which is surprising.
Really?
I don't remember it at all.
They already got your guns.
I need to look into it sometime. You are, sorry? I don't think that's guns.
Yeah, they already got
Not even in the war. We just used to throw conkers at people.
Fucking throw tea bags at people.
For you Americans. Yeah, that's right.
Janie's got a gun.
Ask them politely to stop. Hey, you Germans, would you mind putting down your guns, please?
Yeah, well, I mean, you even had to hand in like really old relic type guns. And my mother was she was volunteering in an RSL club in Victoria around that time. And they had a lot of museum pieces like artillery and stuff, guns, handguns, rifles, etc. from the war. As an RSL, Return Service Leagues Club, which was all started, for the veterans basically, which is nothing like that now. But anyway, they got raided. They got a heap of their stuff taken, confiscated, and they didn't get all of it back. So, they took everything. Everything.
Wow.
Not everything. Sorry, I shouldn't say everything. They took as much as they could. The law-abiding citizens handed in what they had. So basically, we were left with a country of criminals with guns. And also, I mean, you can still get a gun now.
That's always the way, isn't it?
You can still get a gun now. I know plenty of people who've gotten a gun recently. It just is a bit of a rigmarole, a little more than there was.
Yeah, that's what Tim is saying here. They still have rifles and shotguns in Australia. The laws are a bit wonky, but they're there. And Stella has said that before, that it's not quite as cut and dry as we think that it is here, but definitely difficult.
Yeah.
One of the conditions, I believe, is that you have to have access to or own or know somebody who has a certain amount over acreage. I think it's something like over 5 or 6 acres or something like that, which is, I don't know how much that is in hectares, but to, enable to be able to go and shoot your gun, etc. So there's a little bit of a,
really?
You've got to know someone, etc. There's a little bit of a condition-y thing. And if you're a farmer, you can have one for shooting vermin, etc. So there's conditions, but you can't just walk around the city with one.
In an emergency, you can always take out a nefarious intruder with a boomerang, of course. So it's not all bad.
You can, and the boomerang always comes back.
It always comes back. So
Exactly.
that's a very handy weapon to have.
Y'all have clearly never seen me throw a boomerang.
It comes back when people know what they're doing.
So Tim says that I wonder if it's a regional thing because they did the same thing in New Zealand, mass casualty event, and everyone just complies.
Not here in America.
I think that was. Are you referring?
I guess he's talking now.
Yes, that was the shooting up in the Muslim
Christchurch.
Yeah, that was very dodgy.
Yeah, totally. Controlled that guy. Yeah.
Well, now in America, I'll watch the news and there'll be like 530 kids were murdered by deranged gunmen, and I'm just like, that sucks. No one's coming. No one's taking my guns.
Yeah, there's definitely, I hope that there continues to be the holdout mentality. Although I was hearing that unless you have the same weaponry as the government, I mean, that's what really allows true freedom, is if you are equally as armed as the government. And we know that we're highly armed here in the States, yes, but we know that we are not as advanced as they are, and because we know that they've been hiding weaponry for many decades now.
Yeah, but a bunch of fucking goat.
Yes, I know the rice farmers and the goat herders. I do know that.
I was gonna call them goat fuckers.
I know what you were gonna call them, but I'm just saying.
Ashley was trying to divert. Nicely done, but failed.
Thanks. I was trying. Yes, I do know that, but a terrible toll was still taken. And it wouldn't be that way if we were equally matched. So I'm not saying that it's hopeless with, what we have here and guerrilla tactics and whatever, if God forbid it ever comes to that. I hope it doesn't. But that's different than what they have. And I mean all kinds of crazy weapons that they have.
I also agree with you. People should be able to buy and own private nukes.
Exactly. Gentleman Skeptic says, "Where's my tactical nuke? America." And I happen to agree. If nukes are even real, and this, you know what, this group,
fake and gay.
They don't know. It's a toss up here. So
yeah, well, I would highly recommend that people get to know some electricians so that we can join our microwaves together.
Brucey, gonna start a digital asset by teaching us how to join our microwaves.
There's a guy I watched recently on YouTube who turned his microwave into a laser gun. So
I saw that.
Sort of guy
that's awesome.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Styropyro, right? Styropyro.
Yeah, he's
right.
He's fantastic entertainment. I highly recommend it.
He is.
if you like that stuff, another good one is I Did a Thing, and he's actually an Australian bloke.
Oh, that rings a bell. I think I might have watched him in the past. Yeah, awesome. I Did a Thing. All right, going to look at that one up again. Yep. Thank you.
Good stuff. Like men that are too smart are truly a danger to society.
Yes, it's always when you come across something really awesome like that, I always look at like when this was posted, and it might be, I don't know, 3 years ago, 12 years ago, and I always think, wonder if they're still alive.
Well, apparently I did a thing.
For the CIA now.
Yeah.
I Did a Thing apparently got contacted by Australian authorities after he made some sort of thing into a gun. It wasn't a gun. It was like a shooting device that...
A projectile shooter.
A projectile shooter.
Yeah, well, that
excellent.
That probably would have been ASIO. And ASIO themselves are under very much scrutiny at the moment. They are under severe investigation because they are an absolute... bunch of... I don't know what the word is.
I know it. But
I'm sure you do. Let's just use our imagination. Yeah, no, they're corrupt as F. So, yeah, I don't know where those investigations are actually going to go, but they are corrupt as hell. So
it's going to go to the
incompetent at best.
Is that your firearms investigation people?
Australian Securities something or other organisation. Let me find out.
Oh, right, okay.
But yeah, it's sort of like the, I suppose your FBI sort of thing.
Yeah, an overreaching government
so
agency.
Australian Securities Intelligence Officer, is that it? No, hang on. I should know this. Whatever, it's ASIO. If people like us are probably on ASIO lists. That should say it.
I hope so.
Oh, no doubt.
Why else would I be doing this?
The point is that it's an overarching, overreaching, federal bloated, department that shouldn't exist because it's a violation of human rights. Gentlemen Skeptic
they're absolutely useless.
Yeah. Except for they're helpful in taking your liberties and setting you up for things that you didn't do.
They are very effective in that.
Yeah. So Sir Tim said 3D printer go in Minecraft.
All right. Australian Security Intelligence Organisation.
There's no Z in any of
Personally,
those
I
words.
welcome all feds to our program. We've got to get our listenership up somehow, haven't we? So it's great.
Yeah, welcome to all feds.
Bring
Thanks
them
for
on.
joining us. Hope we convert you very soon.
Thanks, feds.
Yeah, y'all gonna learn some stuff today.
And before we head out, I just wanted, since we're talking about guns, recently the ATF's pistol brace rule was shut down, as well as their 80% receiver rule was shut down.
Good. So
Yeah.
Tim said that the
So
Bureau
Tim's
of
last
Alcohol
comment really made me laugh.
What's that?
He said.
Sorry,
so
carry
Tim
on.
said Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives sounds like a fun weekend, not a government agency.
Yeah, it should definitely
Amen to
be
that.
a store, like a Walmart style store or a Costco style store. I like a Costco style store better.
Justin loves Costco.
Well, and last time we were there, I was thinking like, man, it's too bad they don't sell guns and ammo, because like, I mean, do I need like a pack of 10 Sig Sauer 9mm?
Yes.
No, but I need a few of them.
Yeah, you do. You do. All right, everybody. This has been a really good episode. I am so happy that Terry was able to be back with us, that we had a good group today, good numbers. Very happy for that. Also happy for everybody that tuned in. Gentleman Skeptic, Brucey, Tunes, Ando, Jen. Thank you guys so much. I really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, we do. We do.
Yeah. Tim did say here that Costco is the best. They could sell ammo by the pallet. I agree with that. Okay, well, we're gonna go ahead and sign off now. So if you guys want to just go around, Stella, and then we'll go Stella, Terry, Justin, and then I'll close us out.
Stella, Terry, Justin. That sounds like some sort of category of something. Awesome. Yeah, look, thanks
like
for
a fun weekend.
Thanks for joining us,
Yeah.
everyone.
With the
You know where to
alcohol
find us
back.
because you're already here. So where can they find us, Ashley? Just out of interest.
Stella, I'm glad you asked. They can find us at our Linktree page, which is unionoftheunknowns.com. That's all the myriad ways to get in touch with us. That includes email, Discord, all the things. Also, I can be found with the Union of the Unknowns Twitter page at Union Unknowns. So thank you for asking. And, we do want to say, if you enjoy the show, definitely feel free to share it with somebody that you think would enjoy it as well.
Yeah, and sorry about the cussing, but you get that.
It's all fake and gay.
All right. Well, love your guts, and thanks for joining us, you guys. Good to see you. And I think we're out fairly soon. Yeah?
Yes, we
Bye,
are.
everyone.
Not Your Mama's News has been a production of the Union of the Unknowns podcast. New episodes are available weekly on all your favorite podcasting networks.